Hello everyone, welcome to today's show. My name is Spencer Walsh. We got a great one for you here today. This is what we got. On today's show, an anonymous senior Trump official called Trump amoral and said there is a group of people called the Quiet Resistance within Donald Trump's administration that are determined to thwart his agenda, which is pretty incredible. His job would be jeopardized, so he came out anonymously, unfortunately. We'll take a look at that and Trump staffers' reaction to it. We'll take a look at also Kamala Harris' curious questioning of Brett Kavanaugh today. Does she know something? Alex Jones and Marco Rubio getting a shouting match on the halls of the Senate, and Bernie Sanders introduces the new groundbreaking Stop Bezos Act to end corporate welfare from Amazon and Walmart. So that's pretty exciting stuff there. All right, we got a good one for you today, as always. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining us here today. And a really, frankly, shocking new thing came out on yesterday afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, September 5th is when it dropped. One day filled with congressional infighting, bloated vanity lawsuits, and pathetically weak calls for civility that from a cadre of Southern gentlemen at Jeff Sessions and Donald Trump. By the way, Trump is probably closer to the truth about Jeff Sessions than a lot of people want to think he is, calling him, quote, mentally retarded and a dumb Southerner. But it's this New York Times, and by the way, Trump can't really talk, as pretty much every single piece of evidence we see shows, that Trump can't really talk about being anything more than mentally retarded. Let's be real here. He's not a Southerner, but he's a dumb Easterner, let's just say. Whatever. He's a dumb Northerner. Dumb Northeasterner. Whatever. So very rare that a New York Times opinion piece actually makes your jaw drop for a good reason, not because it's just so awful you can't even stand it, but it's very rare that a New York Times opinion piece actually does a good job, and that was the case with this one. I am part of this was frankly pretty shocking. It was called "I'm Part of the Resistance," not outside the White House, or not on the left, but inside the Trump administration. The anonymous essay penned by a senior official in the Trump administration, one whose job, the Times explains, would be jeopardized should the identity of the official be made public, is essentially a laundry list of why the president of the United States is a catastrophe whose successes, if you really want to call them that, are the result of a diligent staff of clandestine saboteurs who are working diligently from within to frustrate parts of his agenda and his worst inclination. Wow. So they're pretty much keeping them under control. They're adults in the room, which is something that, is a very reassuring thing for a lot of Americans to know with this kind of president in there, which is, it's just frankly, it's like, thank God, right? Because at least there's some people who are not going to take the nuclear football and set it off over a tweet. Because, you really know. Who could Trump do that? It's very possible. It's very possible he could do that. So, yeah. So here's the anonymous author writing. The root of the problem is the president's immorality. Anyone who works with him knows he is not moored to any discernible first principles that guide his decision-making. Although he was elected as a Republican, the president shows little affinity for the ideals long espoused by conservatives: free minds, free markets, and free people. At best, he has invoked these ideals in scripted settings. At worst, he has attacked them outright. In addition to his mass marketing of the notion that the press is the enemy of the people, President Trump's impulses are generally anti-trade and anti-democratic. Which, is it to say the anonymous author is really a hero? Far from it, actually. They also made a special point to note there are some bright spots in the ceaseless negative coverage of the administration. There are some bright spots that the near ceaseless negative coverage of the administration fails to capture: effective deregulation, historic tax reform, and a more robust military, and more. So, sure, he's an amoral monster, but at least we cut taxes from rich people, and we spend more on bombs now, which, to me, that's what makes him more amoral than anything. This is some of the worst stuff that he's doing. So the essay, which prompted no less a snort, a gasp, and at least two audible explanations of holy bleep, goes on to describe a two-track presidency in which Trump blunders around the West Wing, causing chaos and pandemonium in his wake, while staffers work behind the scenes to make sure that things don't go completely off the rails, or at least more completely off the rails. Because let's be honest, they haven't really kept it completely on the rails either. Which, I mean, granted, it's been a very hard job. Like, John Kelly is someone who's probably, I mean, my guess is John Kelly. For, like, people are speculating, my guess is John Kelly here. Yeah, of course, anonymous or not, the essay is essentially a self-serving attempt by White House officials to save face in light of what seems to be a rapidly imploding administration. As such, it should be taken with so many grains of salt that your blood pressure will literally shoot through the roof and go into the stratosphere, where it'll eventually collide with one of the president's promised spaceship warships. Assuming that ever happens. So that's an interesting quote there from Rafi Schwartz. He brings up a good point. Like, there is a good point. It's a self-serving attempt here by the White House officials to save face to what could be a very bad-looking, let's just say bad-looking administration coming down the road. Which, I mean, it does make a lot of sense here. That's a sensible thing to do if you are focusing on trying to, like, if you're looking, let's just say, if you're looking for what's next. If you think, hey, Trump's not going to be around for that long, he's not going to be around forever, do you still want to have a job in Washington? Hey, I don't know, let's say that we were just resisting the whole time. Like, pretty much the point is, I mean, I have to say, though, I do agree with everything written in that op-ed. Trump is incredibly amoral and just not mentally there, which I think the op-ed pretty much does describe. Obama's about 15 times more competent and mentally stable, so this would probably never happen under him. There's definitely an extreme unprecedented situation that only looks bad on the president. Well, I probably would have put my name on it because I just don't like the idea of anonymity. This is, to be clear, what this figure is attempting to pass off as nobility still means working for it. In most cases, advancing a political agenda that prioritizes bigotry, corruption, and above all else, ego. In a particularly Trumpian stroke, the essay ends with one of the president's favorite moves, naming a problem then immediately passing the buck. The bigger concern is not what Trump's done in the presidency, but rather what we as a nation have allowed him to do to us. We've sunk low with him and allowed our discourse to be stripped of civility. Like, there's certain people in the administration who would say that kind of thing, and certain people who would not, and I don't think, like, it's definitely not like Stephen Miller or something like that. It's not Trump who's making all of this go to bleep. It's our fault. Got it? I think not, pal. I think it's Trump. Like, if Hillary Clinton would have been fine, do you think we would have been this pissed off at the world? I mean, I think it's good that we have a lot of people pissed off at the world at the moment, which is something that's it's something that's I personally very happy about, because I think people need it. And there's people actually awakening, like, apathy. People were kind of slipping into apathy, and then still Trump came around, and then people really just got kind of energized, which I think is a very good, positive thing. So just don't welcome these unnamed people into the resistance just yet. As they themselves note, quote, "To be clear, ours is not the popular resistance of the left. We want the administration to succeed, and we think many of its policies have already made America more prosperous." Like, these are not the people who you should be allied with. Like, it's kind of a weird situation for me, because all the reasons why I personally hate Trump, they say they love Trump, but they are really providing and another thing that's not mentioned here, but it should be mentioned here, this Splinter report on this, was that they invoked possibly using the 25th Amendment. They were considering using the 25th Amendment because they just didn't want to, like, go too crazy on him. So they were like, okay, we're just going to keep an eye on this, because he was insane. Like, there was real consideration about possibly using the 25th Amendment for those who worked with him, which is a very big deal. Of course, the 25th Amendment is just where the cabinet members sign an amendment, or sign a piece of paper saying this guy's too crazy to rule. He's mentally troubled, but and pretty much we need to get him out of office. So that's pretty much what they were thinking about doing there for a good portion of time, which is crazy, just to say the least there. The point is, I do agree with everything here. Trump is incredibly mentally unstable, but I mean, on the policy and on the substance, these people are all the same. The only difference is Trump's not stable, and they don't like his morals. The fact that he attacks the press a lot. It's just that simple. And some of the people in the press do, but the fact that there's an active group, I think the purpose of this group is not to resist really any of my honest policies. I mean, they would have gone fine along with separating families, I think, but they're just there to keep him kind of in line. You know what I'm saying? They're just there to make sure he doesn't have like a mental breakdown and starts like attacking North Korea or something like that, or just dropping a bomb on them or whatever, or just going crazy. It's just something incredibly stupid, rash thing, which they've done so far a relatively good job of, but there's definitely been some moments. All right, so yeah, here is at 5:40 p.m. the president has responded. So just about an hour after the story was published, here we go.
Nobody has, and we have started the wall. Nobody has ever done in less than a 2-year period what we've done. So when you tell me about some anonymous source within the administration, probably who's failing and probably here for all the wrong reasons, no. And the New York Times is failing. If I weren't here, I believe the New York Times probably wouldn't even exist. And someday, and someday when I'm not president, which hopefully will be in about 6.5 years from now, the New York Times and CNN and all of these phony media outlets will be out of business, folks. They'll be out of business because there'll be nothing to write and there'll be nothing of interest. So nobody has...
Yeah, so that's President Trump's take on the whole issue, but here's the thing. There's what he said publicly and what the reports are that he's saying privately, and there is quite a big difference there, to say the least. He is not happy about that at all. Yeah, he's not happy. So please, by the way, if anyone listening to this happens to know the email of the person who anonymously, the person who possibly anonymously read the Trump article, please email us. Email the show at Spencer516@gmail.com. That's what that is. Spencer516@gmail.com. So please. Check it out, will you? All right, I would appreciate it. So, yeah. I mean, it's definitely a very tough situation. Just quick final takeaways here on this. The party said about being amoral, that's true. The party said about being incredibly dumb, that's true. But the thing we need to remember here is that this guy is not our friend. And I say this to some of the more libs out there. They're going to be like, oh, once this guy comes out, like, oh, he's such a great guy. No. There needs to be a clear line drawn between the far right, which is pretty much the right these days. There is no Republican Party, like, respectable Republican Party, who, like, doesn't, like, play in the cultural stuff, too. Like, there's no successful respectable Republican Party yet. I just don't think enough of those people exist anymore. But there needs to be a line drawn between the far right and the mentally insane, like Donald Trump, and a good portion of his supporters, and then the left. Like, there needs to be a clear line drawn, guys. You just need to understand that. All right, so now we can move on to the anonymous leak. Continuing coverage of our anonymous leak from the White House, as anonymous leakers are now anonymously leaking about the anonymous leak. So yeah, Sophie Weiner of Splinter is reporting that this afternoon the New York Times dropped a beyond explosive op-ed by a senior administration official in the Trump administration detailing his brave campaign to frustrate parts of Trump's agenda and his worst inclinations. As pointed out by Splinter writer Rafi Fine, the essay is self-serving garbage that allows whoever's the mystery writer is to get off the hook for their own complicity in Trump's racist, destructive regime. Hold on, wait a minute, back that up. That is that's Rafi Schwartz, by the way, was reporting what we just kind of went through there. And that's the point. It's a very good point there by Rafi Schwartz. Like, this is something that also, on top of the fact that these people are incredibly conservative, they're also going to have the hook for the role they played. And I mean, I guess